If you believe there's a lake that's a mirage, and then you realize it's a mirage, you didn't go anywhere. You may have investigated it, walked toward it, looked around. But the realization is not anything happening in lake world. It's as if to say that nothing happened, except you just clearly saw what was already the case. It's not that you go anywhere or, in a sense, do anything. Because part of seeing the lake, it's just an analogy, it creates a self that has to deal with this lake. So the lake would be the world, life. These are all concepts that spring to mind. They're collective, so everyone believes it, and it has a certain inertia to it. It's largely social. Part of this work is you have to break free of that. People are going to think you're weird. Keep it to yourself. Not because it's shameful, but because people won't understand. In the old days, they'd just grab the pitchforks, because they'd say you're a witch or some crap. You're just different. The movie, I think it's called Days of Future Past. It's one of the X-Men movies where Professor Xavier is psychic. That's his power, and he can read people's minds. They want to find all the mutants. They know they're out there, and he can't quite reach beyond a certain point. So they invent a machine. They build this machine, and I can't remember what it's called. My wife and I call it the mutant finder. Like, where are the mutants? So we joke that this channel is a mutant finder. We put the signal out there and maybe people respond to it. YouTube is amplifying the outreach or whatever. Because the conventional mindset is not really open to what we're talking about here. And that sounds like a judgment, like people are closed-minded, they're bad. No, people aren't bad. People are just doing the best they can. It's just some of us hear a different tune and look around and say, this isn't real. I don't know why, but it's not real, and I'm not sure what to do about it. So we develop a self as teenagers, children, we develop this ego, but part of it is a skepticism about society, about values that were given to us and we're just expected to obey. We rebel, perhaps. I know I was like that. I'm saying you're not alone. That's what this channel is for, is to realize the mystery of who you are so that it's just natural. And part of it is the people who don't understand us, that's really okay. It doesn't say anything about us, it says everything about them, which is fine. Once you're awake, you're free, and you can help people that want to be helped. It's natural, and a lot of people don't want to be helped. I don't know if I call it natural, but it is what it is. It's actually quite beautiful. I guess it could be like a masquerade party. People are dressed up in costumes, pretending they're some character. Some of us are revealed. It's like, oh, wow, cool. Some people are just so caught up in the character. They want to keep doing it. It's fine. I just don't recommend it because it's a form of suffering. That's the key. That's where the rubber meets the road, is where you suffer. Pain, loss, heartbreak, depression. It's part of life. So we allow that. We're not suggesting that we bypass difficult emotions. Far from it. We're investigating, we're observing, we're noticing. What is it? And it's like a flower opening. It's beautiful. Whatever we experience has no self-nature. The only thing that's real about us is the consciousness that we are. The objects that we experience, they just open because we're not judging anymore. We realize what we're looking at is pure perfection. And it's just one reality appearing as a world of things. It's the reality and the appearance. The rope appears as a snake, but it's just a rope. Part of Buddhism is this notion of emptiness. And if it's misunderstood, they say it's like picking up a snake by the wrong end. You'll get bitten. Emptiness does not mean non-existence. It doesn't mean nothing. It means non-grasping awareness. It just lets go into infinity. There's nothing left. So it's not an object. It is the very source of all appearances. We say it's empty because it's not an object. So in some sense, there's nothing there, but what's not there is an illusion. So we'd say the lake is empty. There is no lake. And yet there's the appearance of a lake. So we don't say the lake doesn't exist because it does, as a hallucination. So just notice what that is and go about your business. It fully embraces the notion of a conventional reality that everyone seems to believe is real. You just know it's not real. You know it's conventionally real, but not ultimately real. You can just see it. And it includes your own body, mind, emotions. It's all seen through. There's no self, there's no other, there's no world. And yet there's an appearance of a self, an other, and a world. That's why we say it's empty. There's something there that we're calling empty because it has no self-nature. Narcissus sees his face reflected in the pond, and in a sense, the reflection is empty because it's not substantial. It's merely a reflection. It doesn't have something on its own side, as it were, that's producing an object or anything. It's substanceless. But that doesn't mean it doesn't exist. The appearance does, at least for a while we're embodied, it appears to exist. So yes, it exists conventionally. I just wanted to address this because I was reviewing a video that we did on dark entities, is what I call them. They're just phantoms that we get scared of, and they may look like mythical creatures, vampires, goblins, whatever. They're just imaginary. And I would say they're not real. I kept saying that. Like, don't worry, they're not real. They're just phantoms in your imagination. They do exist, and they can be terrifying when we reify them. So in that sense, they're conventionally real, I guess you could say. It's different from a cup or a plate or a TV. It doesn't have a physical body. It's an imagined entity. We feel it. There are emotions that go with it. There's fear. And there are unconscious forces that can take us over. And so then we'll say someone's possessed when it's really just their own mind that's got them. Their own beliefs, their own unexamined beliefs, unexamined thoughts, unobserved. So that's why I'm suggesting that we observe it. It's just what we're observing. It's like notice the lake, study it, look at it, and one day you're like, oh, there's no lake. But you're seeing the exact same thing you saw before, just without the mental overlay of objectification. And our own person is like that. It's an emanation of consciousness, you could say. It doesn't have its own power. Nothing has its own power. Consciousness is the only reality. And when we intuit what that is, we can, in a sense, affirm that because it's already the case and it'll transform our world. Fear goes away and there's a certain confidence. Confidence meaning with trust. We trust it. We live that way. And that's how prayer works. It's an affirmation of what's already true. It's letting go of really what our bullshit is. Our beliefs. We're stuck. I don't know what to do. Please help. And you're reaching out to what you can't possibly grasp or understand, but you intuit on some level is real. And trust. You feel better and you don't know why. And then things shift. I did learn to pray that way when I was younger. We called it knowing the truth. And it's just, in a sense, remembering, studying, and in some sense understanding and practicing and connecting with that underlying reality, truth itself, connecting with that and realizing that the appearances have no power. So we imagine they have their own power. They don't. Knowing the truth is not a concept. It's a connection with that prior reality, and then there's a letting go. And then we forget about it, and then things shift because we're not trying to control it anymore. It tends to give us what we want. That's the paradox. We think we know what we want. It causes suffering. When we can realize that that's just a vain grasping and a state of frustration, we learn to release that, and that paradoxically is what gives us what we want. But we don't know what we want. There's something in the Bible about God knows what we want before you even ask. Because we really don't know what we want. So it's as if to say, well, God knows what you want or what you need. That sounds very paternalistic, very dualistic. That's okay if that's where you are. If you need to imagine a deity of some kind, I don't really recommend that. But we all have that. We can't just deny that. So we surrender that into not knowing. The gap between two thoughts, the space, the conscious space of our own awareness, we let go of thinking that we know, and that's when things can happen. It allows a certain natural flow. I like Taoism because it's kind of just letting things take their course. It's just we relinquish personal control over that, and it tends to create more flow in our life. So don't deny conventional reality. That doesn't mean it's real in any ultimate sense. It means that it's empty because it's just a reflection of your own consciousness. So there's only one consciousness, and it's a relief. It's brilliant. And yet we can acknowledge ordinary things, just like you could acknowledge your own reflection in a mirror. You just know what it is, unlike Narcissus, who's all wrapped up in it, confused. So it's a form of freedom that can be lived in the body. In Advaita Vedanta, it's called Jivanmukti, which means liberation while alive, or embodied liberation. The full-blooded liberation, the full realization, includes everything that we'd consider duality. It's just we can see what it is. We know what it is. And we can fully be that non-dual consciousness and living in an apparently dualistic world, because all we really see is that which is everywhere, all the time. I just think that often it's misunderstood, whether we're a Buddhist and we think things are empty, and so we confuse that with saying they don't exist. Saying they're not real is different from saying they don't exist. So understand that. There's a huge void between the notion of the self is empty and I don't exist. Self is empty just means, oh, I am, and the body, mind, and emotions, the person is an emanation of being. I'm not confused about that anymore. It's very natural. But confusing that with I don't exist, if I even just entertain that a little bit, that thought, that idea, it's paranoid, it's really alienating, and would go towards something more like dissociation, depersonalization. Those are really uncomfortable, really painful, and false. It's not just that they're false views, it's that it creates more suffering. It doesn't relieve it. It zombifies us. Like a friend says, hey, I heard you had a bad breakup. How are you doing? I don't exist. That's not real. Feelings are illusory. That's not what we're doing here. We're not saying we don't feel. We're not saying there aren't thoughts. All of that is still going on. You can see a mirage and be like, yeah, I see the reality, and I can understand why people would think there's a lake there. And I can kind of sympathize with that. There isn't one. But if I'm embodied, there is a sense of objects, and I can just have fun with that. Doesn't mean it's real. So things can exist in a certain way. Like, hey, pass the salt. Yes, salt exists. Truth is your friend. Find out what's true and get free of this nightmare that we're calling ego.